You got to bell the cat, make sure that the goals are aggressive, aspirational, and not something that you can easily attain with just one step. Those are not goals at all. You have to look at your customers, your resources, and make sure that you have a stretch which comes to you so that your competitive position at the marketplace gets strengthened. The third element that I want to bring about from a goals setting point of view is never set a goal which weakens competitive position at the marketplace of the company, which means while you're setting the goals for the company, if you eventually find that the market driven parameters are not supporting you to remain a step ahead, then you are not setting the right goals and your competitive position is getting weaker and weaker, which means there has to be a strategy in the organization to look at the new product portfolio. There has to be a strategy in the company to look at the competence portfolio of the individuals, which means your L&D team and your HRD team has to provide that resource to make people skillful enough to meet the demands at the marketplace. Next slide, please. From a capability point of view, essentially, goals make strategies so robust, they are able to bring forth whatever you aspire to as a reality at the marketplace. The capability and strategy are normally interlinked and therefore they cannot be seen in isolation. They are invariably interlinked and therefore the ability to understand strategy from a simplistic point of view is the first task of a division head or a business head or the country manager. He has to break down the strategy in its simplicity and enable the capabilities of the team to drive those strategies efficiently at the marketplace. Very important, the simpler you keep it, you're able to differentiate your company very well at the marketplace. And very critical, this year's learning has shown to us is be smart enough to change your resources to the need of the hour. We should not always look at the traditional approach to some input, some promotional material, whatnot. Be smart enough to understand what the market is needing today, what the environment is needing today, what are the changes that are driving at the marketplace, and based on those changes, what should I do to reallocate the resources if required? For example, almost all the people, were not able to move into the space of in-clinic visits this time. And therefore, every organization, and you would hear from the person tomorrow, how digitalization invoked a new order at the marketplace in terms of customer connect in the last 7-8 months. It also enabled every one of us to connect to each other remotely. What was felt as just a digital call, maybe as a small one-on-one video call, went on to almost 300, 400 people being present on a webinar or a webcast. And that becomes the new order in terms of reallocating your resources. And while you reallocate these resources, you need to re-strategize. Your structure needs to undergo a change, and you need to realign your entire team to deliver the strategic value. And that is where criticality comes to play in the new business order, where all of us need to say that yesterday's methods cannot be employed today, and we hope to remain in business tomorrow as well. So I repeat, we cannot continue to use yesterday's methods in today's business order and hope to remain competitive in the business tomorrow. So we need to be very, very topical in readdressing the requirements and moving ahead with speed in that level. And that's why I say the outcome will always depend upon how the resources are aligned to meet the strategy requirements of the marketplace and for the company. And that is meaning resourcefulness and customers contact or saturation through these resources would become the two fundamental yardsticks for us to remain competitive in our goal setting. Next slide. For goals, they are linked to resources more than market forces. They have a direct bear the team that carries out the resourcing to the customers, which means as long as the customers are there at the marketplace, these resources are getting aligned to them. And as they get aligned to them, the goals will undergo a change. And customer saturation index has a direct bearing on the goal setting. And I've realized this in a very simple manner. The one company which went about saturating the marketplace was Mankind Pharma. And you look at what's happened to this company in the last 20 years. They've moved with speed, speed, and speed, and they're among the top 5 companies today. There are many organizations like this, dermatology companies, neurology companies, and I think Shankar himself is a classic example of trying to look at niche organizations which have saturated a given segment, and they have achieved tremendous traction in those markets and really driven home significant customer value in saturating those customers in the marketplace. Next, please. I will also take you through an alternate goal setting methods. There is something called as OKRs, bottom up and top down. Bottom up and top down, all of you are knowing very well. When it comes to OKRs, they are objectives based on key results. Objectives very clearly says is something very aspirational which you hope to accomplish. And while you are having something aspirational and hoping to accomplish, you assign a number to that, and that number becomes the key result for you. And that is what you're talking about OKRs, and they are always defined with specific market share objectives, maybe aspirational rank objectives, maybe customer acquisition objectives, maybe a very, very robust, it's like the millennial company, a new startup company suddenly says, I am going to go and meet all these customers in my segment in the next 1 year and achieve an aspirational target of X, Y, Z. And that's a concept which two very global companies use very effectively. One is Intel and one is Google, and they have done dramatically well at the marketplace. Specifically, even in India, companies like Larinon, companies like Eurasia are all examples where they have taken this approach of being very bullish, visionary driven, and then they say they're not going to go by the traditional approach. They're going to assign numbers that they want to accomplish, and they run behind those numbers and resource to get those numbers. And those are the specific things that are happening at the marketplace in a very systematic way. And I'll show you some more approaches which are happening. Next slide, please. You will find that in a very simple manner. You put your vision and mission in one place, then you have your strategic goals, all driven by non-numerical assessment of numbers. Then you break it down to objectives, which is annual, quarterly, monthly, and then you give it as a key results, and then you define your tactics, your tasks to achieve them. This is a form of an OKR, which focuses and commits to priorities, aligns and connects for teamwork, brings about accountability tracking at the marketplace, and makes it quite amazing for all of us to achieve these stretch numbers. Therefore, I would ask and urge every one of us to be present here to keep aside the traditional models of goal setting and try to approach specifically. I'm going to be covering 85% of all customers present in my segment. I'm going to resource 40% more than what I did last year to all these 85% customers. And therefore, if I can give these resources to them, what can possibly be the objectives or the goals that I can keep for myself? And from there, break it down to a territorial goal, a regional goal, or a district goal. It's very nice to hear that bottoms up targeting becomes the onus of accountability of rep because he has developed that number. But let me also give you a thought process that the bottom up targeting always has a very great fallacy in it. Every man protects his last year's achievement for the next year's, and therefore he says, I want to have my targets, which becomes easy for me to attain and easy for me to earn. And that's not a good way to attain goal setting objectives. Next, please. In sum, what I would like to tell is that in today's context, and when you have a very, very complex market and a lot of uncertainty available at the marketplace, the resourcing becomes a very, very critical element of goal setting. Keep your resourcing very, very focused towards your capabilities, understanding the dynamics of customers, and all the other things you can apply to see whether it syncs with your thought process in achieving or in building up your goals. Also, for any business, imperative is to crystal gaze the dynamics that they exist as today, and then look at a midterm horizon. Midterm horizon to me is not more than a year or two, and long-term horizon is best case 3. Don't go into 5 years, 6 years, 10 years strategic plan. The most critical year is the current year and the next year. If you plan for these two, believe me, your business will always be robust and safe. Those companies which plan for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years are not realizing where they are getting into. I would urge everyone to say goal setting, very, very sharp in the current year. Let it be robust and aggressive. You want to make your next year a little lesser? Excellent. No harm at all. If you plan 25-30% growth this year, plan at 20% for the next year and see how it progresses. Don't do the other way around saying, I will build my current capabilities at 5%, and in the next 2 years, I'll have a 20-25% growth. It's never going to happen. In my 40 years of career, I've realized the year that I am operating in is the most critical year. Be sharp, agile, specific, clear for this current year, and postulate everything else for the next 2 years. That would be my take-home message to everybody. 2 things once again: saturation of customers, ability to resource these customers becomes the critical thing for goal setting for the future. Rest are all supportive to see whether you're on stream or not. Third element that you should keep as a boundary watch for yourself is see how the market is, the landscape of the market. What new things are happening in this market? Are there great developments taking place? Whether, for example, if an Indian generic company does not see any kind of patent expiry in the next 2 years, so he is left with no option but to innovate on his existing therapy of products, existing product mix, see if something new can come out of that, and then work for the next 2 years. So he has no choice but to acquire more customers because he has the same product. So non-users of the product, non-represented market, saturation index becomes very critical. Then once he looks at these markets, these customers, he has to say, how do I resource them? If he doesn't have these two, and I don't have any new products to come into the place, there is no way I can survive the next 2 to 3 years. So build your market scanning very strongly. Markets as boundaries become very critical, and take that as the benchmark for the future. These are my thoughts to all of you on targets and goal setting in the new era or the new millennium or the new order, customer order. That is what I would recommend to every one of you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from all of your questions and any thoughts that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Vijayendran. I think this is a fantastic presentation, which is more relevant today, as most of the companies started the process of kick off their goal setting process or target setting process. Most of the companies, especially MNCs, would have been already started, and Indian companies would have been starting in another month or two. I think this is very early a kind of good set off or as a kind of kick-off process for them. And in 1840, there is one word which is actually coined, which is today even people are using, is okay. Because there is one guy called Old Kinderbook. He actually started putting, whenever any inspection, he put his initial of okay. Okay, so that is the way the word okay is coined. Probably I think now we can use in target setting OKR. I think this is a way I think we can start using the word, because there are two approaches generally we have been using. One is bottom up and top down. So now this is the kind of approach we can use. This is very much relevant to the my initial slide on how we should inbuilt or build in not only hard goals, also you should set on these soft goals also. So this is the way I think we really want to see how this will change the way of looking into it. Okay, now I request the people to just record the all audience to post their questions. And there are a couple of questions which actually which have come into the registration. Yes, today I think this year is going to be almost a black year for any industry, even pharma. Even though pharma we say that it is a better one, still it is actually a black year. It is something we call it is like in middle some pages are missing. Okay, so if you really look at it, all of a sudden we were having March, then April, May, June, almost 3 months is removed from the calendars. Okay, now how we need to really account, or how we need to consider in that the kind of football in the next year goal setting, or next another 2 3 years, how this is going to make a change.
See, if I have really contextually understood, can you close the slide, Kalai, first? Then we can see all the people.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, understanding your point, you very specifically asked, this is going to be a black year, this year is almost going away. How are people going to look at the next year budgeting in relationship to the current year, number one, goal setting, and what is the prognosis for the business in the current year? Have I understood your question correctly?
Correct, yes, yes.
Okay, let me say this in a context. In the pharmaceutical industry, slowly and steadily, the traction of growth is coming back right from this month. The first 6 months, what has gone is gone, as I understand. And possibly one will now try to see whether we can get back some positive traction in the business. And at the same time, try and see if the health, which is the preeminent requirement for everybody, will move into that domain and try and see if they can build their business there. So I don't think it is going to be a write-off year for pharmaceuticals. It will be a write-off year for automobiles, possibly electronic goods. People are all, showing very keen interest to keep themselves healthy. They're looking at immunomodulators or immune builders, vitamins, nutritional products. And health products are becoming increasingly used by people. That's number one. Number two is, contrary to the expectation, it is not like 50%, 60%, 70% of the people have lost their jobs. Maybe about 5-7% of the people have lost their jobs. I don't deny that. But by and large, the IMF also is saying next year they're going to see a resurgence in the economy to the tune of about almost 8 to 10% in India. And this year they are anticipating an 8 to 10% decline. So, nutshell, what you're saying is your business is going to remain at the same size as it is there today by the end of next year. Because you're going to see a decline, maybe 5 to 10% in economy this year. Next year it's going to grow back 5 to 10%. So you come back to the original size. So in effect, you're going to possibly lose 1 year. And many businesses, believe me, all of us know this. Everyone who has worked in corporate companies for more than a decade will vouch for it that every company worth its name would have had a bad year in performance. What happens when you have a bad year? You don't close shut shop. you regroup, you resynthesize, you rebuild competencies, you rebuild training capabilities, and once again you come back into the growth trajectory. My belief is that's what is going to happen. So my advice to everybody, this is the time, sharpen your saw very well, which means train yourself, acquaint yourself with new practices, meeting ways, customer connects, and build that portfolio in such a way that you are prepared for tomorrow's emerging market situation. And that's where we need to be aligned. And I think one of the panel speakers will take this very well from a team building perspective of what needs to be done from a synthesis of marketing and sales management team. As I see it, in the emerging order, there's going to be a very thin line between these two set of people. And that organization which aligns this very well will build their goals in a very robust manner.
Thank you.
Yes, Kalai.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another interesting question what we have received is we've been talking on digitalization to a wider extent in these years or these months. Now, how you feel that currently the companies are preparing themselves in target setting on digitalization, or the kind of they will be using the various tools and other things that you can use it for the target setting.
Okay. Various tools will be used. Digitalization will become the new order for sure, which means people will have to invest in themselves to become tech savvy, not just tech savvy, understanding technology properly. Tech savvy is ability to use it, but there are many people who can use technology without really understanding this. So you really have to understand the technology properly. And once you understand technology well, it will become a predetermined part of your lifestyle in terms of planning, in terms of aligning yourself, in terms of reaching out to customers, in terms of providing resources, all the things. So digitization will be here to stay for sure. And you also need to use a lot of mathematical models from a digital space for your future in terms of modeling exercises. What happens if I meet so many customers? What resourcing will be required? So you're able to capture the resource spend and need that you have in a very efficient manner.
Fine. Any other question can from the audience?
Kalai,
Yeah.
it's a elaborate summarization and aspect Mr. Vijayendran had added, and I thought I will add just one point to a very good summarization. What Vijayendran had done is the role of the leadership. The leadership could be from CEO, or it could be from a division head or business head, or even to the regional manager and area manager. After setting the goal, what efforts this leadership is playing in terms of making the people to stay focused towards goals. Okay, so there I thought I will add one of the significant responsibility which leadership has is to ensure that in the process of now here my point is specific to short-term goals. A 1 year objective is also a short-term goal. I'm saying that there could be some dilution that is taking place, and the dilution is at a regional level, or it could be even at a business head level. Okay, that's where a division head or a CEO or the president or whoever is managing the overall business, how this individual is in a position to guide the people to stay focused towards the goal. Okay, so that's where very important leadership responsibility is getting fulfilled. I would certainly recall or remember in the recent couple of discussions we had with the SMSRC. Okay, so we did hear about some companies due to this COVID situation, totally getting into new portfolio. Okay, some companies launching no sanitizers, no milking that opportunity, or suddenly what type of a COVID scenario is throwing it up. And I tended to agree with Sanjay Mitra when he said that, look, this is a significant energy waster and dilution. You are not in that sanitizer selling business, and it is going to happen at the cost of certain key priorities which you would have kept in your goal sheet in order to achieve for this. I think these are all the situation. Somebody would have certainly thrown this idea, but these are all the situation where the leadership very clearly articulates and say that, look, you are going to confuse your path. This is the part I wanted to add to what further Vijayendran had said. So there is the leadership responsibility to ensure decluttering and staying focused towards the deliverable in terms of goal. This is one point I thought I will add to the discussion, which was very valid.
Shankar, I may just button in between. I'm so sorry, I'm coming in between. This point that you made about sanitizers, etc., I would like to take a step ahead and move into a different dimension.
Yeah.
There's a dermatology and cardiovascular company, and you know the company very well, which is Glenmark. Okay?
Yeah.
They are not in the business of antiviral drugs. Okay. Yeah. If I go by Sanjay Mitra's analogy, they should not have got into favipiravir at all.
Yeah.
Favipiravir in the last 3 months has done 250 crores for them.
They have become number one.
No,
number one brand. Number one.
250 crores. Yeah, 250 crores for them. Yeah. So therefore, there's something called as a topical opportunity grabbing option for an organization based on its capabilities and resources. Had Glenmark not had the resources to reach out to doctors, they would not have been able to achieve this. Right. So it talks about the concept of resourcing, number one. Right. Number two is they scanned the environment very well from an opportunity point of view. And therefore they said, this is a limited opportunity for me. Every company has shown a decline in their objectives in the first 6 months. I'm also going to show. And therefore, I'm going to miss the bus in my objectives. But if there is an opportunity which I have to capture, let me build it up and bring it, and therefore capture that. They did that with their favipiravir. Hetero was never in the business of remdesivir. Cipla was always in the business of antiviral drugs. So they also launched remdesivir. Hetero launched remdesivir. Cipla was never in the business of monoclonal antibodies. They got into tocilizumab, but it was an opportunity which was there available for them. And they grabbed that opportunity. Mankind was never in the business of anthelmintic drugs. They had a 2 crores, 3 crores business annually. Today, in the last 2 months, they have done 12 crores each month of ivermectin alone. While all the antibiotics in the industry have shown a decline, so has Mankind's Mahasef and other brands. These are ability of organizations to look at core requirements and move into that space and quickly provide as an option without losing your competency of your mother business. For example, Glenmark did not lose sight of their dermatology business. Everybody went and promoted favipiravir, whether it's a cardiovascular or everybody knew that no COVID patient is ever going to be seen in the local clinics. So they knew that there is a home quarantine. If there's a home quarantine, that means all physicians can write, GPs can write. So they captured that opportunity and did it. So my assessment is, while I do agree with Sanjay's broad assessment, we need to understand that it is critical to, I have a generics business, 500 crores generics business. In the last 3 months, 18 crores of additional revenue of sanitizers has come from that business.
Yeah.
And generic is not core competencies. So I would take it with a different perspective. and say yes in a normal scenario. When I have the normal business scenario, what Sanjay says is spot on. But today I'm driving an extraordinary situation where you know very well dermatology clinics were closed for 5 months, 4 months. Even today, the 48%, 50% of the clinics are open. What would you have done for 4 to 5 months?
Right.
Why, dermatologists are not willing to meet. They were willing to take a digital call. And I know of instances where doctors are saying that I wish I had a different phone number and not a WhatsApp. I can't do a WhatsApp call. I can't get into webinars so much. So multiple thought processes come from the left to right in different dimensions. Those who have done brilliant webinars have walked away with the honors. There are some companies which did beautiful seminars and webinars. They walked away. But some companies did a very lackadaisical, ordinary, substandard webinars. And they really bored the doctors to death. I have personally logged on to many webinars and I've seen that happen. So I would think that we need to go from a topical perspective. What is good, we need to adopt. What is not good, we should shelve it and move on. That is the way I would look at it.
I think good. I think both the
So
points are.
I'll respond
Yeah.
in this way, Vijayendran.
Yeah.
I'll respond in this way because you articulated which is very right in the sense that as long as the organization has the resource and capability.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's a totally different dimension the way I see it. So if the organization has the resource and capability, for example, the Dr. Reddy's, which is not there in the vaccine business at all, today they have signed up for a Sputnik trial, for clinical trial of Sputnik with the Russian vaccine for COVID. If the management and the board is in tune with leveraging and resourcing a particular initiative, it is absolutely fine. So I'm not talking about those aspects, but as far as the goals that are concerned, okay, that's why I said that it is not only at a CEO level, at a regional manager level, at a business head level, there could be situation which will drag the people into diluting themselves, which I certainly feel that the leadership has a responsibility to ensure that the execution path is clear, so that the goals, even though it may be in the current context, may be taken a dip in terms of outcomes, but still the strength of that goal is not getting diluted, and perhaps what one organization might have missed during the current year, there is always the scope and room for that organization to build it in the coming year. So there, if the field force starts thinking that their total capability or competencies are either not leveraged or it is getting changed to bring them back into what they have to do in the post-COVID era, there could be challenges. So that's the point I am trying to make. So I still hold that view of leadership as a responsibility to either resource if there is a new initiative. Okay, so that I will add after listening to you, and look at the goals are not getting diluted. That's why I look at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sangardas, and thank you, Mr. Vijayendran. I think there are a couple of points to be added on that. This point, what we have been discussing, apart from these two, what, if I'm right, with the Glenmarkers, apart from resources and capabilities, they also have very well structured execution. I think that has made the big difference. I think that has actually generated the way as compared to other people, they have very disciplined execution of the strategies. I think that actually fetch their business. I think that is one point I want to just add in. Then there are a couple of points come from audience. Rahul has mentioned that hetero was and in the business of remdesivir. So he just want to add the point, and he also says that till the time organization is not diverting their main focus of the business, they can always look at any specific opportunity business to spot on. This is I think we are exactly discussing now. The point he is saying is that I know the main focus of business, as long as that is not diverted, we can always look at the opportunity and play on. I think this is what he want to add it. Any other question, any other point we want to add, we can take it up now. May I get any more questions from the audience? Mr. Vivek, would you like to add any point? Fine, I think this is very fantastic starting day. I think always the opening batsman is have they always have a lot of responsibilities to drive the show. I think I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Vijayendran for being with us to inaugurate the series. And as we discussed, we will be going to have more session. And this session we have already put it in a live into the YouTube now. So this is actually going to the live now. So we will be going on the all other session also in the same way. I'm sure this will give a kind of broader guideline to the all companies and all young executives who are in the